Am I the asshole for unilaterally downsizing our vacation rental when people didn't give me their share? A group of 12 of us were going on a vacation together this summer.
Everyone was supposed to give me money so I could rent a huge house where we were going.
When I tried to collect, a few people paid immediately, but some said they would get me later or ignored me. The house we were originally going to rent got scooped up by someone else because I didn't put a deposit down. I found another house with similar amenities, but it would only sleep like 8. I booked it,
since that was the money I had.
In the next weeks, the other 4 people said they were ready to pay. I told them that the house we had looked at was gone, but that we had rented a smaller house and we could get some inflatable mattresses or something for them.
They said if they were paying full price they wanted a room. I said okay, we are all paying full price,
so we all deserve a room. However, there aren't that many rooms to go around. 2 canceled and 2 got a room together at a hotel about 30 minutes away from the house. All of them are upset that I changed the plans without consulting with them. The other 7 are happy with the arrangements. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. You'd have been crazy to front the deposit with your own money. All those 4 would have had to do would be cancel or just not pay, and you'd have been out some significant cash. If they don't pay, they don't get the bargain lodgings. They always have the option, as 2 of them took, to arrange their own lodgings. You didn't change the plans. You got rooms for those who paid you.
Getting rooms for those who didn't pay you would set a really bad precedent.
Not the asshole. I don't get the poor communication comments.
OP requested the money for the rental, they ignored it.
OP booked what they could with what the money they had.
Everyone knows summer, holiday rentals go fast.
2 canceled and 2 got a room together at a hotel about 30 minutes away from the house. All of them are upset that I changed the plans without consulting with them. Then they should have paid when you tried to collect. Being the organizer is a thankless enough job as it is. As one of the non-organizing guests, literally all they had to do was pay when asked. Not the asshole. Info. As with most conflicts on Reddit, it's about communication. Were you clear with your friends that you would not book the accommodation until they paid their share? Did you communicate with them when the first choice was no longer available? If you ever coordinate arrangements again, it's polite to give a heads up that you need $X by Y date. If you don't receive $X by Y date, you'll consider them to be unable to attend and you'll book the accommodations accordingly. Once you book accommodations, you send another message saying, since I didn't receive $X from you, I assume you can't make it, and booked accommodations without including you. Maybe next time it'll work out. Your error was in not letting them know that you'd moved forward without them. Not the asshole. It's not easy to rent large house for vacation. And it's not cheap, so people should guarantee they will go and pay way in advance. So, those who replied and paid, got their rooms, others are on their own. Am I the asshole for not allowing my neighbor's kids to use our treehouse?
I, 32F, live in my suburban neighborhood where everyone knows everyone. My husband, 35M, and I recently built a treehouse in our backyard for our 2 kids, 6F and 8M.
The treehouse is a hit with our children and they spend hours in it every day. However, our neighbor's kids, 7F and 7M, started coming over almost daily just to play in the treehouse. At first me and my husband allowed it because it's nice seeing our kids have God friend and a good time together. Their visits became more frequent and they left a mess behind almost every time. Last time I found juice boxes and candy wrappers all over the floor and our garden. I asked their mother Linda to remind her kids to clean up after themselves. She responded with, "Kids will be kids." After this I decided to set some boundaries and I told Linda that her kids can't come over to play unless they learn to clean up after themselves or if my kids invite them over. Linda was furious about this and she started telling everyone I ruined her kids' summer. My husband supports me in my decision, but I am starting to feel guilty. Am I the asshole for not allowing Linda's kids to play in our treehouse when they feel like it? You're not the asshole. Juice boxes and candy wrappers all over the floor and our garden. She responded with, "Kids will be kids." Bull. My mother would have made us go next door, clean up the mess, and apologize. Kids are kids, yes. But they're only slobs if they're permitted to be slobs. Linda was furious about this and she started telling everyone I ruined her kids' summer.
Then she can build a treehouse in her backyard and let her kids trash their own nest.
She's just mad because she can't send her kids to your house for free babysitting anymore.
Not the asshole if the parents are already pulling the "kids will be kids" card when their brats leave a mess and refuse to train her mutts.
You better believe they will sue you silly
When one of them stubs their toe on your property. This is a liability for you. You did the right thing. Be sure to have a camera pointed to this treehouse so you have some form of protection.
Put up no trespassing signs. Not the asshole.
If I pulled that crap as a kid, my parents would have marched me over to apologize and clean up.
Yes, kids will be kids, but Linda seems to have forgotten that parents have to be parents.
It sounds like the neighbor children are coming over uninvited. You really need to put a stop to that for liability reasons.
Is there a reason why Linda doesn't put up her own treehouse for her children? Not the asshole, of course.
You're doing those neighbor kids a favor by telling them what it takes to be a good guest.
Obviously, the mom got defensive because it reflected poorly on her parenting skills.
This didn't have to escalate.
It was wrong of the neighbors to allow their kids to come over uninvited anyway. That's trespassing.
Continue to give the neighbor kids a chance to redeem themselves by inviting them to come play, but make the rules clear. Clean up after yourselves and don't pop in unannounced. Good luck and hope they all have a fun summer away from their computer screens.
Not the asshole.
You don't owe your neighbor's kids access to your property.
You did a nice thing by letting them come over. Unfortunately, their parents have, in fact, ruined their summer by failing to teach them basic manners. Stick to your boundaries and keep the invite open if you are comfortable to. Not the asshole. My mom would have been mortified if I left a mess at a friend's house.
AL significant Othera treehouse is classed as an attractive nuisance, same as a pool, and if something happened to the kids when they were over you could be held liable. You don't want them coming over without you knowing about it in advance so you can keep an eye out.
Am I the asshole for not making a bigger deal out of my half-sister celebrating the end of my parents' marriage?
My parents announced 2 months ago that they're getting divorced.
I, 16 female, did kinda see it coming, but it still makes me sad. My half-sister, 25 female, has been celebrating ever since she heard. She cheered when our dad told her. She has gloated in my mom's and my faces. She told mom she can forget about being a part of her life or going to her wedding now. Half-sister is engaged.
My half-sister always hated that dad remarried after her mom died, when she was 5, and she said she never wanted to have my mom or me around.
She was always praying for the end of the marriage. She used to try and break them up in the past.
Dad would get so mad and frustrated with her, but she never let the dream die, and now her dream has come true. The last time mom or I saw my half-sister was when dad was moving out.
She stopped by briefly and she gloated so hard.
This was also when she told mom she was no longer invited to the wedding and no longer going to be a part of her life.
My mom was upset.
Despite my half-sister's dislike of her and constant disrespect, my mom loves her and she's sad to see it all end before they had a chance to be even friends.
Though my mom always wanted to be family to my half-sister.
My maternal aunt saw my sister had posted on social media a party she threw and it turned out she was celebrating the divorce.
My parents were upset. I could shrug it off because I knew she'd be so happy about this and her celebration does not surprise me at all. But my parents asked me why I'm so calm and collected about this. I told them I expected her reaction and I always knew she wanted this badly. They said they would expect me to be upset. I told them maybe if I expected different from her, but I didn't. I pointed out that everyone in her comments knew too. There were loads about how she always called it and how glad they were she got this win. To me it's so dumb. My aunt confronted me afterward and told me I should be making a bigger deal out of it because it looks like I don't care about the weird and over-the-top reaction from my half-sister. She said mom must feel like I don't care about her heartache at all. That it's rough to see a child she loved and helped raise cheer on the fact she's getting divorced from dad. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole, eh? Your aunt is dead wrong. What your stepsister is doing is very trashy, as is putting personal things on social media. I'm sure that your mother would not want you to do this. Always keep it classy. Smiling face with hearts. Not the asshole. Your sister is hurting you and both your parents with her lack of empathy. And to be frank,
It doesn't sound like you're happy she's celebrating the end of your parents' marriage. You're just acting very maturely in the face of her childishness, and even said so to your parents. Your aunt seems to think that you reacting aggressively, while legitimate, your sister sounds immature, would make things better. While this might not necessarily be the case and it might even cause more stress in an already stressful situation.
Not the asshole. If you expected this reaction, it's hard to act surprised or upset when it actually happens. Surely your parents knew she was like this as well.
It's too bad that they want performative outrage from you. Do they think that would do anything but give her more ammunition to gloat? They should direct their anger at her, and her dad should cut her off, not you.
Not the asshole.
How could you possibly claim that title when your sister already has it?
Queen asshole and her pathetic minions need to grow the fuck up.
How she's managed to get some poor man to agree to marry such a bitter, twisted,
and childish piece of toxic waste is utterly confusing to me. Laugh your ass off when he divorces her and do it twice. Once for your dad and once for your mom. Not the asshole. Honestly, you seem like the only one in this situation with any emotional intelligence. Tell your mother that you understand why she is upset and that you empathize with her.
However, you are not going to invest any more emotion into a person that never gave a damn about you or your mom.
Hopefully your mother can understand.
As for the aunt, her to stay in her lane.
She doesn't have the right to dictate how you feel.
If she doesn't like, that's her problem to deal with. And let her know this topic is no longer up for debate. If the adults have a problem with anything, they can deal with it amongst themselves and should leave you out of it.
Wondering what support that sister got as a 5-yo when her dad remarried and how hard the new stepmother pushed. Op isn't wrong here at all. When you have realistic expectations, you can pretty much see things for what they are. Hopefully the sister finds her long-lost peace now after the divorce she prayed for so long. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister and her family out in the middle of the night in a different country?
So I 28F have moved to the US 3 years ago with my husband 30M after getting our green cards approved.
We moved to Central Florida, notorious for all its tourist attractions.
Since we moved, my sister 33F and her family husband 37M, nephew 13M and niece 11F have visited every year around this time.
We love to host and even bought a house to accommodate family and friends visiting, 2 guest bed. The issue started on the 3rd day of their visit. I left the night before for a night shift at the hospital and my husband had a very early one. When I got home by 1 p.m. I found my puppy, 9 Maliant, locked in the garage. He doesn't have access to that area because there is no AC there. This is Florida in the summer, and I am afraid he will run away when the door opens. It was pure luck that he was laying down so close to the entry door, or I could have ran him over before I saw him. He was lethargic and breathing heavily, so I immediately took him to the vet. He was overheated and dehydrated. And he could have passed if I hadn't gotten there when I did. I finally returned home at about 7 p.m. When I entered I instantly saw my favorite vase. I got it from my late grandma, wasn't in the center table. I opened the trash only to find it there, in pieces. I was already fuming about my puppy. When I pulled up the images from the house cameras I had recently installed because of the dog. In the images I saw that at 9-ish the kids said goodbye to my husband and their parents, and when they left, they proceeded to discuss whose turn was it to break something. My nephew argued that he had done it last year, so it was my niece's turn. My niece then proceeded to throw one grass on the floor. At which point my puppy got fussy and started barking. They got annoyed, so they took him to the garage before returning, picking up my vase and smashing on the floor. When their parents returned they simply said they had an accident. My sister cleaned it up and they made their way to the parks. My blood boiled. I immediately packed their bags and put it by the door. My husband arrived and helped out. As soon as they arrived I told them how their kids behaved, that they caused harm to my dog and broke something irreplaceable to me. My sister tried to argue that it was an accident and that they're just kids, and I shoved the video into her face. She still tried to argue, saying we were family and she didn't have money to pay for S hotel for the rest of the trip and it was the middle of the night. I simply stated I didn't care and she had to take her little monsters away from me. She left screaming and then crying. Obviously, this morning I woke up to several messages in the family group calling me all sorts of names for kicking them out in a different country and how I was being mean. My mom wrote about how disappointed she was at me. I didn't have the energy to reply to anyone back yet, but before I do. Am I the asshole?
AITA. I'd be pressing charges for the poor pup if you can. Maybe then she'll realize how serious it is.
I'd never have her or her brats in my house ever again. She deserved it for defending her kids when the evidence was right there. Well done op for sticking up for yourself and your poor doggo. If you can't press charges, I'd cut her out my life completely for that. She could have killed your dog with her negligence and refusal to watch her kids.
This morning I woke up to several messages in the family group calling me all sorts of names for kicking them out in a different country and how I was being mean.
Hello family.
For those of you that aren't aware, sister's kids nearly killed my dog by leaving him in the garage in Florida.
It also seems they've made a game of destroying things in my house for fun, including sentimental items. Please find attached my vet bills and a conservative estimate for replacing the vase and anything else I can recall them destroying. You are all welcome to host them in the future, but hide your pets and your things. Not the asshole.
You had and showed proof that the children did multiple wrongs, and instead of your sister correcting them or at least telling them to not do that, she tried to excuse their actions with, "It was just an accident."
You're not the asshole, but the sister is. Just tell everyone how disappointed you are in your sister for trying to kill your dog and her children for destroying your things and cut them off. Not the asshole.
Tell your mom you're disappointed in your sister for having such bad children who deliberately break things and put your puppy outside to die.
Send her the video. AITA. Personally, I would send the video to everyone who complained, with very clear audio showing what the two kids did and that it was deliberate. I would also point out what they did to the puppy and that they can host this family instead and put up with the disrespect. They need to learn that holidays with free accommodation is a privilege, not a right. Your sister has obviously spun a different story to the rest of your family.